Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of What Do You Do podcast. Just want to say a huge thank you if you had a chance to listen to the first episode. If not, go and check it out. It was definitely worth a watch as we talked all about my life journey as well. Now we're going to dive into Cal's journey and what he's gone through his younger years, into his education, and then into his career, into today. Just want to also say that, if you guys are enjoying the content as we're coming out, next week is going to be our first guest coming onto the show, which we can then start diving into talking to an actual person in regards to what they do and so on and so forth. So one thing we would love to know from you guys is there's any career that you would love us to interview, if there's a certain job that you would love to see on the show, definitely let us know, because we are booking out quite fast into the as weeks will come on. So definitely put down in the comments what you'd like to see. Hit the like, subscribe, because we certainly want us to grow more and give you guys more content as well too. So today we're going to be diving into Cal's journey, diving down into what he's gone through, and kind of just to touch base a little bit from the last episode. In Cal's and I's relationship, we were kind of separated as far as family goes. When I was about 12, he was about 6 years older than me, and now we're diving back into a great relationship. So there's a lot of things that I don't know about his journey, just like he didn't know about my life journey. So a lot of the information I'm going to be most likely finding out for the first time. So, but yeah, Cal, it's all yours. Take away. You're the showmaker today.
Yeah, man. So, my name is Vola. We're cousins. I'm 32 years of age. How old are you again?
26.
You're 26.
Yeah.
Okay, so we are 6 years.
Yeah, 6 years
different. Which is awesome. Like I grew up in a little bit of a different timeline than you did.
You had the American Pie time,
yeah.
You had the fun college times and all
exactly,
that. Cool
exactly.
Party hardy.
yeah. So, I grew up in Waterdown, probably about 5-10 minutes away from you.
Yeah.
I played a lot of sports growing up. I was always into entrepreneurship. I remember when I was in elementary school that I had this vision that one day I'd be carrying around a briefcase and I'd be wearing a suit and all that kind of stuff and doing deals and whatnot. So I always had this dream of being an entrepreneur. My dad was an entrepreneur. I always looked up to him. I always thought, that'd be something super cool to do. But also, I thought about, possibly being a dentist or an accountant or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah, it was kind of.
Good thing you didn't go down that route, eh? Okay.
Well,
until we get a dentist on here, and then we'll talk. Because probably they work very hard too. So, but where were you born?
So I was born in Burlington, Joseph Brant Hospital.
Cool.
Where were you born?
Yeah, Joseph. And then you were in Waterdown, essentially all your life.
Yeah. I've been in
they
Waterdown.
were still in the same house. Your parents, right?
Yep. Yeah,
Wow.
Basically grew up in Waterdown and lived there pretty much all my life, and now I just live a little bit north of that and whatnot. So, but yeah, I was always a shy kid growing up, super quiet, really kind of to myself, maybe a little bit introverted. But I was pretty smart, I was pretty good at school for the most part. I really cared about my grades. My parents really cared that I did well in school.
For sure.
I always loved spelling words out and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, really?
and whatnot and pronouncing them and whatnot, kind of almost
not like me.
not like you,
Scared,
so but that was something that I struggled with too, and I wanted to get better at. So I would kind of do that every week with my mom.
Cool.
and whatnot, kind of growing up. So yeah, I was always kind of that kid. And yeah, man, I loved sports. I loved hockey. I played some soccer, played baseball. I did a little bit of everything. So I was that normal Canadian kid.
And what was your favorite sport?
My favorite sport growing up was hockey.
Okay.
And then I was introduced to football.
Right.
I wasn't introduced to football till later on in life. Hockey was definitely the number one. Had a lot of fun playing. I played just house league with a bunch of my buddies, and we did super well in house league. It was a really great time. It wasn't too intense or anything like that. We just got to play puck with the boys and whatnot, and grow up, doing that. So
cool. And when did you get into football? Because football was the biggest thing for you, right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Because I remember hearing when I was younger, oh, Cal's crazy. Because were you the catcher, or what position were you?
What position? So I played cornerback, which is defense.
Oh, okay.
For football.
Got it. But you were on the outside.
Yeah, so
Like,
I'd be on the outside covering like wide receivers and stuff
Gotcha.
like that. And you know, it was funny. Like my very first, so my dad's like, "All right, you boys are gonna be playing football, all right?"
right,
Like,
right.
so we went to like, so we played in Burlington. As soon as like we went in to get fitted for equipment that very first day, my brother like, you know, showed up. He's a big guy. He's like a big stocky dude and like all that. So he like walks in, and the rep coach just like walks over to him. And he's like, "You come over here. You're gonna be playing rep." And I was like, "What?" Like, what about me? You know, I want to play rep too. And so yeah, automatically he was like pretty much on the rep team, and I'm
Wow.
like, man, I just want to be like my brother. So like,
Right.
so I ended up starting in house league, which is like a much more basic level compared to the rep. So like that first year, I got to tell you, man, it was rough. Like
Was it?
first year playing, I was playing cornerback and whatnot, and I think we lost 15 games in a row that first
Oh,
year.
no.
And there was one game left in the season, and we were winning. It was like an incredible feeling. Oh my God, we're gonna win our first game! It was so exciting. And then, sure enough, like the last play of the game, I'm covering this like wide receiver that's like a little bit taller than me, but I'm like, I got him, like all that.
Right.
Anyway, so they ended up hunting the ball. Wide receiver just runs past me. I'm trying to catch up to him. They throw the ball just over my head. I try to swat it down, and sure enough, this guy catches the ball for a touchdown. They win the game. We lose. We end the season 0-16, dude. It was probably like one of the biggest failures of, you know, of my sports like career. Like I was,
Right.
you know, I was always a pretty, like we'd win games and all that kind of stuff. And it really sucks. So I remember that summer, dude, I worked out every day.
Really?
I tried to get better. I was working out with my brother, working on my speed, working on my strength and all that kind of stuff. Just hitting the gym. And
Crazy to think that for a lot of people it would deter them to want to keep going, right? Because you lose 16 games in a row, especially as not only a team, right? A lot of people take it on their solo, and they're like, you know what, it's not for me,
Sure.
right? But it's crazy to think that you obviously went the other route. You wanted to get better, so and then did you go for football again the next year?
Yeah, so the next year I ended up trying out for the rep team.
Oh, cool.
And like again, I was a super small kid,
Right.
like and all that. And I remember trying out for the rep team, and you know, you're looking around, you're like, man, these guys are so much better than me. There's no way I'm gonna make this team. But I've been training all summer long. I really want to make it and whatnot. And I remember going to tryouts, and I made it through like the first cut, the second cut, and it was the final cut. And I was like, dude, this is no way. This is no way I'm going to make it. Like, I'm too small. I don't know if I'm fast enough or whatever it may be. And somehow, man, I was like the last kid on the team just before the cut. And I made it. Like,
Cool.
it was one of those feelings that you're like, God damn, like, how lucky am I to have made it sort of thing. But I worked super hard, man, and whatnot. So I ended up making rep that year and ended up playing on the Burlington St. Peter's rep team.
Oh,
which was
cool.
awesome. Yeah, so football, yeah, man, it was a lot of fun. So I played Burlington St. Peter's for like 5-6 years. Won a couple championships, which was really cool. And it was a great organization. I learned a lot. You learn a lot about discipline, you know, in that game. It's like a band of brothers out there.
True.
Like everyone's got each other's back. You're working as a team. You got 12 guys out there and making sure that everyone's doing their role. You know, if everyone's successful and doing their job, then the team is going to win. Which is super awesome, man. I mean, I didn't play the whole time the first year,
Right.
But I progressively over the years got better and better and better and stronger. By the end of it, man, I was a pretty good little football player. So that was a lot of fun. Then I ended up playing football in high school. I would actually play rep. I would practice with those guys Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Actually, rep was Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, and then my high school schedule was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday games. So I was actually doing double practices on Tuesdays, and then I'd have to miss Thursday and then go and do special teams Saturday, game Sunday. So it was
Right,
like,
because it was separate from your high school football to the Burlington. Who did you say
Stampeders, yeah.
Stampeders, gotcha.
yeah,
Interesting. That's a lot of. So you were on two separate football teams at the same time.
at the same time, yeah.
Wow. Now, in that time, did you ever think or want to be like a CFL or an NFL player?
You know, I never thought I was going to be like big enough to play next level sort of thing. So, I mean, from high school, the next level is playing like Canadian university football. I knew I could play Canadian football or university football. it was one of those things that, kind of like grade 12, you're like, man, is this something I really want to pursue? Or
Right.
like, am I going to go down the entrepreneurship role? Or, do I want to go to college? Do I want to go to university? And it was just like a lot of options on the table sort of thing. Yeah, at that time, grade 12, I think I decided that I wanted to go to college and I wanted to pursue entrepreneurship. And I took a course at Conestoga College and I did a 3-year business management course.
Wow.
Yeah.
Which makes sense why you know a lot about business.
Know a few things,
Every time I ask him a business question, he's always got an answer. I'm just like, where did you get this from?
Yeah.
But 3 years, eh? What was the cost of it?
Okay, so yeah, I mean, college probably back in the day, like per semester, might have been like $2,000 sort of thing,
Oh, okay.
$2,500. And then your books for that semester might have been like 1,000,
Right.
and then your residence would be on top of that. Residence, geez, that's a good question. If I had to look back at it now, you're probably for the whole year residence, you're probably like 4,000 to 5,000, I'd say. So.
Right.
You can mark it up to like probably $10,000 a year.
Okay.
And whatnot. So I did like a business management. I was there for the first year, and of course, when you go to school and go to college, you end up doing some quite a bit of drinking.
Right.
Thirsty Thursdays, and
Right.
you're out all weekend long and whatnot. And I
Yeah.
think that's a huge part of like going to school. Is like, you're meeting your peers and you're building relationships and like all
Right.
that kind of stuff. Like. Sure, like the studies are like a huge part of it, but also just meeting all these people that down the line and for the rest of your life you might be friends with, or you might do business with, or whatever it may be, right? So, but yeah, it was always I enjoyed my time at school, that's
Cool.
for sure. So, yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I know. I remember seeing a couple of Facebook posts when we were younger. I was like, wow, this guy is living the life. Like this is what I want to be when I grew up. Which I didn't end up being the party hardy guy.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, pros and cons, of course. Obviously, like, would you say it was a good thing or a bad thing getting into like the partying, having fun, and drink? Like, would you do that again all over, like for the fun, or would you not do it maybe as much now looking back?
I think, looking back now, I probably partied way too much. I had way too much fun. I didn't focus enough on studies,
Right.
which I should have. Actually, 2 years into my program, I actually dropped out.
Oh.
So I still had 1 year to go. I basically dropped out after my second semester in my second year. So I only had really a year and a half of education.
Oh.
So I was a college dropout.
Oh,
which
geez.
I don't know if I told you.
No, I didn't know that.
So,
Which,
yeah,
I mean, not a bad thing. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, going and finishing college or school doesn't define a person, right?
Sure.
I mean, that obviously there's so many successful people that don't have a college degree or any, even maybe a high school diploma for that matter, right?
Sure.
So, I mean, would you say, obviously, if you were to do that section over again, would you have completed the course? Like, was it beneficial to you in a sense? Like, obviously, there was one more year, which would be another 10K. Like, would it have been 30K well spent learning what you learned, or do you not feel it was?
I think at the end of the day, going to school and finishing it is a huge win. Just like, going through it, focusing, doing the work,
Right.
and finishing school is like a massive win. And just, knowing that you accomplished something. But at the end of the day, for me, and like what I kind of knew is that I was never going to take a job. Yeah, I was never going to take a job. I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to be my own boss. I wanted to control my time, my hours, have flexibility in my schedule. So I pretty much decided after a year and a half, like my brother and I actually came up with like a little bit of a business idea. And that business idea was to buy these like HID kits, if you remember those, like
Yeah.
the really, really bright light bulbs that you can install in your car and blind everyone.
Right. Yeah. And because I remember coming to the car show actually one time because my brother Brad was looking for a set of lights, and I remember just you pulling down your tailgate, and there was just like a sea of headlights. Like, what number is yours again? And then you just had it right then and there. It was really cool.
Yeah.
And what like did you make good money off of it?
Yeah, so we did pretty good, and that was the thing. So when I was in college, we ended up building the website for it. So like you go on a website, you could like pick what car you had. So let's say you have like a 2010 Silverado, boom, select that. any other information that we needed, you would input that on the website, and then we would generate what type of headlight bulb that you required and the whole kit, and then you could just basically add it to cart, and then it would ship right out.
What year do you think that was in? Like, just to understand, like, obviously that seems like a no big deal today.
Sure.
Right? But that would have been like before 2010, right?
Before 2010, yeah.
For sure. So
yeah, let's say 2010, 11, 12, we were running that.
Right.
So we had built this e-commerce site when I was in college. Like, my brother and I would go to like car shows, and we would have like a whole bunch of kits with us, and like after a day of selling, we do like $1,000 to $1,500 like in a day sort of thing. Wow. And then we would start getting orders online. You know, you're out with your buddies, having some beers, hanging out, and like an order of like $700, $800, $900 would come through, and you're like, holy crap, like, this is cool. And so it was kind of my first experience with e-commerce, which is really cool. And it was neat, you know, just be able to put up a website. People from anywhere in Canada could like log on to it and order some kits, and we'd ship them out and whatnot. So it was a cool little business. It changed from that.
Now, like, did you keep doing that, or like when did you stop? Because you don't do lights obviously today.
Yeah.
But when did you stop doing it?
So it was called Motive Lighting Concepts, and then eventually we ended up getting in touch with another gentleman, and then we got in touch with an investor, and we started like pitching like an even bigger idea. And that idea was to do like this Motive clothing line, and we were going to go out and basically try to inspire youth to go and chase after their dreams. Motive, basically, we're going to start like, what's your motive? Like, what's your motive for living? What's your motive for everything that you do, sort of thing. So we had changed the concept up from like this lighting company to like a clothing brand, and then we were going to go out and try and promote that.
Right. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, because I do remember Motive, and I remember going to all your pre-launch parties. They had like Turtle Jacks and stuff like that, and the videos, everything. And I remember we did a couple, what we do? Like street hockey, we did some football, stuff like that.
We did
all
some
the
meetups.
Motive shirts and kind of doing all the launch for the clothing company. Would you say was it more of a clothing company, or was it more of a motivational, like what was the key?
Yeah,
to the business?
so it was like a motivational clothing company, if you will. So we'd like generate revenue from selling merch.
Right.
And we ultimately like wanted to go out and meet people and interview them and find out like what their motive is, you know. Like some people love helping people, you know, and that's their motive. You know, if you're a nurse or whatever it may be and you just love helping people, that's your motive. If you're an athlete, a professional athlete, your motive is to go out and be, you know, the best hockey player you can be, or best football player, or whatever it may be. So
because a lot of people don't know. Like, a lot of people don't know, and I guess it's funny now that we're making this podcast, because it's good, like, full circle, because really today we're trying to educate a lot of people on what they want to do and help inspire people. So it's cool that a lot of people just don't understand what gets them excited every day, and you got to be excited, right? Because really, if you're gonna be somewhere, do something, whatever you're, you know, if you want to be an NHL player or, you know, a doctor, you gotta wake up every day knowing that you love what you do.
Exactly.
Right. So yeah, it's very cool. Now, how did that business go? Because you guys did a trip too.
We did. Yeah. So one idea to promote the company was for us to shoot a documentary, and so we were going to travel. So we had bought a Dodge Ram pickup,
right?
And we had deckled it up with like logos all over it, and then what's your motive and all that kind of stuff. So it was actually me, my buddy Greg, and had planned this trip out, and we were gonna go down to California for a month and just try and promote the heck out of it. So 2 weeks before our trip, before we were gonna leave, we went on Kijiji and like posted up a wanted ad for a videographer, editor that could come with us on the trip and help us record our trip and document everything that we did over the month. So this gentleman ended up getting back to us on the ad and said, I would love to come with you guys if you'll have me. And we ended up hooking up with them, and he said, yeah, let's do this. So he ended up hopping in the truck with us, and we took off to California.
And what did you pay for, or you just wanted to be a part of the ride?
He just, yeah. So basically what we told him was that everything will be covered, like food, accommodations, all that kind of stuff. And he was a younger guy. He was going to York University at the time. and he was studying film, and he was just looking for stuff for his portfolio so that he could show other companies down, in the future of the work that he had done. And it sounded pretty interesting to him, so we thought he would come with us. Yeah, so we took care of everything. Adrian hopped in the truck with us, and we took off, and we just started filming everything, dude.
Oh, I bet.
And
because what like quite the journey. Like, we're from Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, and like, how long of a drive was that? It's like what, 3 days?
It's a 40-hour drive.
40, right?
Just over 40 hours, and so that would be about 3 days.
And why California? Like, what was exciting about California?
You know what? It was just doing something big.
Right.
As big as we possibly could. It was way too far, way too long of a
Right.
drive, but it was awesome. We fully enjoyed it. We met a ton of people. We
Right.
interviewed like over 35 people during our trip, which is awesome. Finding out, people's lives, finding out everything about them, what their motive was, and whatnot. And we were selling merch along the way, and all that kind of stuff. So it was, it was definitely an experience that I will always remember for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And whatnot. So.
Well, I remember you telling me a story, and maybe just to touch on it, because it's a really cool story that there was, what was the company called? Keep Calm and Chive On,
Yeah.
right? Because I remember you saying you essentially were outside of the building playing music to get their attention, just to get you guys into their office facility, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then and then you ended up like hanging out with them, chilling with them for the whole day, or?
Yeah. So my buddy Greg, he's a musician now, does country, all that kind of stuff. And so Greg was kind of the lead on this whole project. He was the front man and all that kind of stuff. We had noticed that the Chive was set up in Venice Beach in California, and we were out there, and we noticed the Chive flag was being hung just out front of it. And we ended up looking it up, and we're like, oh my God, that's the head office for the Chive.
That's it, yeah.
Wouldn't it be cool if we tried to get into the office and hang out with the Chive guys? So Greg went out there the first day and just started playing music like nonstop, trying to get their attention and whatnot. And like the whole first day, nothing worked. Right.
Wow.
So we're like, you know what? Let's come back tomorrow.
Oh, you went another day.
We went another day.
Oh.
Yeah. So we ended up coming back the next day, and Greg's playing music, and finally somebody comes out just to get some fresh air out of the office, and Greg Greg pitches him, will like blow your mind with like an idea. You guys should like, let us up, sort of thing and whatnot. And the guy's like, you know what, man? Yeah, come around. We'll let you guys in.
Wow.
So we're like, oh my God, what's going on here? We ended up going around the back of the building, and then the general manager came out, like greeted us, like, hey guys, how's it going? You guys want a tour? We're like, heck yeah.
Wow.
So we ended up going in, he gave us a full tour, gave us some beverages when we were in there. We were checking out the whole spot. They were showing us another website platform that they were building. They showed us the guy that like his job was to go on this website, and all the submissions from all the girls that would like send in photos, his job was like go through and find the best photos. Then they would post it up on the website.
Terrible job.
And it was just some young dude too.
Right.
Like he's like, yeah, it's like all the stuff. I'm like, true, man. It's crazy what people send into those guys. So,
for sure.
So they took us in there, and then like, and the one thing about the Chive, like if you guys remember the Chive back in the day, it's probably for 30 plus age group or whatever it may be, you could never get merch from those guys. They were always sold out all the time. You could never get a Chive shirt. Like as soon as stuff came available, it was sold out right away. I actually tried to buy like a Chive shirt, and Greg did too and whatnot. So it was funny. So they ended up taking us into like the vault, and in the vault is where all the merch is. And the general manager's like, here, take a bag, fill it up like all the way to the top, take whatever you want. And you guys, can take all this merch home with you.
No way.
Dude, this is incredible. And then Greg challenged like the general manager to like a ping pong game, which is
cool,
hilarious. And then if Greg won, I forget like what the bet was, but if Greg won, he got something. And if the general manager won, like we had to leave or something like that.
I wonder if they're still around.
I think the Chive is I think they are. They might still be around. I'll have to look into that. So, I mean, it was massive back in the day, but it's really kind of fallen off. Like, it seems like the Barstool's the new Chive. sort of thing.
Right, true.
But it was massive back in the day. So
Yeah. No, it's cool because I mean, I just remember you telling me that story like years ago, and I was like, wow, that was really cool. Like just being that, like I guess having the courage just to stand out in front of them and you know trying to get their attention, and then the moment you do, having the because some people freeze in that moment. They're like, what do I do? Right? Because if somebody's walking out, and then Greg obviously being right there to say, hey, we have a great idea. And honestly, all it takes is just the courage to do it.
sure.
For that one opportunity that, you know, obviously is a memory that you'll take forever, right? So that's really cool. I love that story.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun. It was a really cool trip. And then at the end of it, Adrian ended up flying home, and then Greg and I drove all the way back to Ontario, Canada.
Oh,
And,
really?
yeah, it was a long drive. That was a rough one. Like we had Red Bulls just stacked in the back, and we were man. I've never drank so much Red Bull in my entire life.
So what happened after California?
So after California, we came back. We started working on the documentary,
Right.
and then so we did up like a teaser video, and then we had booked a restaurant in Waterdown, and we did like an event to show everyone the teaser video, sell merch, and make it like an event that we could like make some money off of to help pay for the trip, and then eventually release a documentary. So we had come back, we put on the teaser video, and like we had probably like 150 people from Waterdown come out to this bar in Waterdown.
Because I was there for that. I remember that. Like I don't even know how old I was. Like how old do you think you were?
At that time, I was probably 21, 22.
Right. So I would have been around like 15, 16. Because I remember I didn't drive there because I had to leave early, and I was like, oh, congratulations. That's awesome.
Right.
But that was really cool. Just seeing all your peers and people who were like excited for you, and, you know, just the camaraderie that you had from all your friends and family.
Yeah. No, it was a wild time, and you know, that night went off great. Like we raised some money and helped pay for the trip and all that kind of stuff and whatnot. And then unfortunately, beyond that, you know, we got the teaser out. We were like kind of working on the documentary, but unfortunately, like the partnership didn't really work out between buddy Greg. It just didn't seem right at the time. And then we kind of like split ways, and he went out. He like was traveling through Ontario, and I kind of stayed at home. Yeah, it just didn't work out, unfortunately. I mean, we probably should have tried to rekindle that because it was a really cool documentary that we could have put out. The fire just kind of fizzled out on that project, and unfortunately, the documentary never made it out, which is a massive, you know, kind of failure that I've experienced in business and whatnot. I mean, we invested a lot of time into this. It was an incredible experience. It was a lot of fun.
Hey, money too.
Learned
Right.
a lot.
Right.
So
I'm sure too that's what burned out because you're trying to make this great content for people to motivate, and you're investing your time, money, energy, and you're not seeing the dollars come back. Obviously, I'm sure you sold a couple, you know, T-shirts here and there and some gear and stuff like that, but because you didn't get paid off of any of the documentary.
No.
Okay.
Everything just went towards like the cost of it.
Right.
We didn't, and that's essentially what happened. I mean, at the end of the day, like if money was rolling in, things were going well, then we probably would have done pretty good with it. But yeah, I mean, that's the problem is that we need money to live, and there wasn't really any money available at that time. And of course, I mean, when there is no money, partners kind of split, and whatnot, which is unfortunate. But I mean, we learned a ton from that.
So what happened after Motive?
So after Motive, I had to go back to work and make money.
Yeah, true.
So previous to that, I was actually a Zamboni driver.
Wow. I do remember that.
Yes.
Yeah, because I remember actually coming to it was in Burlington.
It was in Burlington, yeah.
Right, because I remember you guys would play like some pretty crazy ping pong on the side when you weren't Zamboniing. But that's such an awesome job. You are living what a lot of kids look at, watching you go around in circle, and then wondering if you're going to make that last little splice of the ice or that last like rough part, right? If you're going to make it, or you got to go around one more time, right?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's a great job.
I forget what we called that, but yeah, I mean, if you just left that one little sliver of ice at the end, everyone's like, oh man, like you're not too good, are you? Like, and you're like, don't worry, I got it. You whip all the way around, like try and get that one little spot.
Just that inch that goes all the way down the middle, right?
And then everyone's pissed because like the ice is like there's water on the ice because you did that one extra lap sort of thing, and there's extra water on the ice, and no one can move pucks and like all that kind of stuff. So Yeah, so I spent like 7 years doing that, and that was all prior to Motive. Like when I was going to college, I was driving a Zamboni, helping pay for bills. So I'd be in school like 5 days a week, and then all like weekend long, I'd be driving a Zamboni, making money to pay for my truck, pay for school, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, so I had to make money again. I had to pay off some bills that we had incurred while I was away, doing the Motive thing and whatnot. So yeah, so I was working. I was working there. I was working for my dad, and I had another job. So I was working like 3 jobs at that point just to catch back up. And yeah, it was a pretty interesting time.
Right.
Now, while I was working at the rink, I started like going into the booking software and looking up all the available field times or ice times. And I was like, man, there's a lot of available prime time ice that we're not selling, for the city of Burlington. I mean, wouldn't it be cool if there was a way that we could sell this ice time, make some extra money for the city, and help offset the costs of all the arenas, because they're always losing money every year. They're like cost a ton of money to upkeep. I was, I think I was like on Facebook, or I was Googling something, ended up coming across something called Startup Weekend. And Startup Weekend is sponsored by Google, where they have all of these people come to a like banquet hall, and then essentially over a weekend they would start a new company, a new startup.
Right.
So I was like, oh my God, like this is the coolest concept ever. I really want to go to this. I ended up booking the hotel. It was in London, Ontario, which is about an hour and a half away from where I lived. So I ended up booking a hotel out there, getting my shift covered, and I just like went. I ended up checking into the hotel, and I think it was like partially like a retirement residence. And I was like, man, like it's like a lot of old people in here, like what's going on, sort of thing. So anyway, so I booked the room, and then that Friday night we all had to meet at the banquet hall. So you like went there and just started meeting people. There was like a lot of web developers, designers, lawyers, a lot of students from Western University were there, and then I think it was Fanshawe College. There was a lot of kids there from that school as well. And then what you had to do was you had to go and you had to pitch your idea. So you basically have 60 seconds to do an elevator pitch in front of everybody based on your idea. So I think I got drawn like first to go up. Right. I was like, man, so nervous. I remember the whole way there just like repeating my pitch the whole way to London for an hour and a half. Like I'm not a big like public speaker, like anything like that. So I get up, pitch my idea, and then you like didn't really hear much. You're like, oh, okay, like
next.
So I was like, all right, I guess let's hear what everybody else's idea is, right? So then everybody pitches their idea. Then you take your idea and you put it up on a wall. Then everyone has sticky notes, and they get to vote with. I think we had 2 or 3 sticky notes. They could go and vote on other ideas.
Like which one was the best one?
Which is the best, or which one you would like to work on.
Oh.
So 7 ideas would be chosen to be worked on throughout the weekend. So if you're in the 7, then it's awesome. Like your idea got chosen. You have a whole team of people, of designers, developers, everybody that would come over and help you with that concept. Now, the other thing about it was if you could find one other person to join your team, then your idea can be used and you guys can work on it all weekend. But now you only have 2 people. The other groups might have like 4, 5, 6. The biggest group was like 7 people.
Wow.
So I ended up voting on this other idea, and it was a banquet, or like a booking platform for booking banquets for like weddings or like corporate events and like all that kind of stuff. So I was like, all right, well, that's pretty close to my idea. Like, I'm going to vote on that one. So I ended up voting on this guy's idea. He didn't end up winning. Like, he wasn't the top 7 ideas.
Right.
So he didn't end up winning, but I went up to him and I said, listen, your idea is a lot like mine. I'm down to work on your idea. If it doesn't work out, we can work on mine. Because it's like pretty much the same thing.
Like in a sense of the bookkeeping and dating and stuff like that.
Exactly.
Right.
So then we left Friday. We all went back to our hotels or wherever we're staying for the night. And then we all came back Saturday morning at like 8 or 9 a.m. And then we were going to work all day and try and validate the idea and make sure it's something that could actually work in the industry. So AJ and I met up and we started working on his idea, and like right away we found a direct competitor that like is crushing it in the banquet space and booking.
Gotcha.
And they're doing a hell of a job. So I said, AJ, listen, man, like let's work on my idea. I already have like all the information on it. I have all the data. I've been in the industry for like 7 years, working at these facilities, sort of thing. Like,
Right.
I think it would be a really cool idea if we can get it right. So he's like, all right, man, that sounds good. Let's work on your idea. Now, AJ was a designer, so he actually went over and like helped everybody else design their platforms. So all we had to do was just kind of get like a rough design, and then you would pitch it on Sunday to these judges. So all day Saturday, I'm like pretty much working by myself. I'm like, man, like come help me, dude. Like
Right.
we got to design this thing up. So like at the end of like Saturday, finally AJ comes over. We start like designing like the presentation for it and whatnot. And then Sunday is pitch day. I think we got selected like first again to pitch.
Oh. And how are you feeling?
So I'm like, man, there's no way we're gonna win. I'm a college dropout, Zamboni driver.
Right.
We're going up against like engineers, lawyers, like university, like fourth year university students or like graduates, whatever it may be. Anyway, so we go up and we pitch the idea, and it was called Community Core. And basically what we're trying to do is allow people from the community to be able to book available ice times online, and then they can book them and they can go play their games. And so we pitched the idea. The judges kind of gave us a nod, like not bad sort of thing. So by the end of it, they started calling out like third, second, and first place. So like third place, they get called up. It's like a group of 4 people. They go up. They're all pumped about it. Then second place is called. I'm like, oh, there's no way we're beating that idea. There's no freaking way. And then sure enough, like, and in first place, Community Core.
No
And
way. Wow.
I'm like, dude.
Oh shit! I didn't know that.
Yeah. So we ended up coming in first place, man, and the prize was $5,000 to put towards your business idea, and then it was like another $2,000 to put towards like legal and partnership agreements, incorporation,
Right.
like all that kind of stuff. So
Now, was it split between you and the AJ guy?
it was supposed to be just used for the business. So like
Oh.
developing the website, any like business costs sort of thing where you weren't supposed to pocket the money at all.
Gotcha.
It was just supposed to be used like for the business. So, and the crazy thing is that I knew this guy for like 48 hours, if
Right.
that. And I didn't know anything about him. And like, I was going to go home. He was going to go home. Like, I'm like, man, I just kind of like set this up with a guy that I don't even really know, but I did have the option of opting out from working with him. So anyway, it got a little tricky after that. I just remember at the end of that, just like going outside and calling my parents up and just being like, you won't believe it, but
Wow. And that must have been like your proudest moment. Would you say to date?
that would be my proudest. Yeah. You know what? That was a really big achievement for me. It was so cool. Yeah, it was definitely my proudest moment.
Wow.
It was one of those things that you're like, there's no way I'm winning.
Well, because you went there with an idea, right? And then you had to brainstorm, actually put it into like a web developed site, right?
Yeah.
And then pitch it to these judges. That's crazy. That is crazy.
So we ended up coming back, and I ended up building a team back in Hamilton with a few guys that I met at a co-working space.
Right.
And we ended up finding that there was a ton of red tape around the rinks. The cities own most of the rinks.
Oh.
And a lot of cities are kind of slow to get approvals and like to have access to this content.
Oh, true.
And for us to like make it work, like to be able to get the information from their booking system and then put it up online. And then now we're starting to collect customers' information. There was a lot of red tape that we were going to have to work through. And sure enough, at that time, another business opportunity came up. So we ended up moving on to that.
Okay. And what was after that?
I saw this video on YouTube of these 2 guys in these massive inflatable balls just like running at each other full speed, dude. I was like, man, what's that? And it ended up being bubble soccer, which is this massive inflatable ball.
Right.
You wear it like a backpack, and you're inside of it, and you can literally like run at your buddies full speed, like you're in football again, and you can play soccer. So play like 4-on-4, 5-on-5 bubble soccer games. And
now, would you say it's really about the soccer, or is it just running into people?
it's about hitting each other.
Yeah, it's about hitting, knocking the person that you love and just taking them right out, eh?
Oh yeah,
because I remember there was a fair, or was it a fair? No, I think it was more like there's something they were doing water down at the park there. I remember seeing you guys for the first time. It was like one of your first events, and I remember going there, and I was like, we gotta try it out. And that was some time. Because how long have you been doing it now?
We're 10 years now.
Wow.
Yeah.
No way. 10 years.
Yeah. Been a long time.
10 years. There's no way it was 10 years when I did that. Oh, my God.
You know what? I think we're 9.
Okay.
We're 9 years.
Well, still, that's a long time. Because, I mean, that was definitely a long time ago, trying it out. And you're obviously still doing that today.
Yeah.
Right.
We're celebrating.
But you're doing something else, too, with the Bubble Force. Because Bubble Force is what it's called.
Yeah, so Bubble Force was the original thing, and then now we also do like archery tag events. So we do bubble soccer mobile events, archery tag mobile events. We also have some other games.
Right, and archery tag is?
Archery tag is basically dodgeball with foam-tipped arrows. So you're like shooting these foam-tipped arrows with a bow, trying to like shoot your opponent. If you tag them.
So it's like paintball that gets hit, he's out?
Exactly.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's basically paintball, dodgeball combined into one. A little bit safer,
Gotcha.
but
it
doesn't hurt quite as much. But it's a lot of fun, you know.
I'm sure you just get that one person that's like struggling to get the the arrow into the bow, and he's just like shaking because he's.
So it does take a little bit of precision, and takes a little bit of time to get used to like putting the arrow on the bow and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
But once you get it, it's a lot of fun.
And which one's been more successful, the Bubble Force or the archery tag?
Bubble Force has been more successful. We've been operating that for longer. Archery tag is still like, I mean, people love it for corporate events, even the university college stuff. So they're both like pretty good, but Bubble Force definitely dominates.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. Like, just out of curiosity, what would you say the business, like, what was your best year in Bubble Force, would you say?
Yeah, so obviously COVID was a downtime for us.
Right, true, yeah.
We couldn't operate at all for pretty much 2 years. More like a year and a half. But before that, we were running festivals. We had like 15 staff at one point running around.
15?
15, yeah. So we'd be running around doing like festivals.
Right.
In like one weekend, we'd be doing like 3 festivals, and we'd be running like private events as well. And we had, quite a few staff. They're like part-time staff, worked like weekends and evenings, stuff like that. But in that year we did about 250, 300.
Wow.
Which is our best year. And then things started to kind of slide down a little bit, and then COVID happened. So I mean, now it's looking like things are really picking back up, which is awesome. It's gonna be good to get back out there, do a ton of events, and it really blows this thing up. So
cool.
Yeah, so basically, we're just going to be operating Bubble Force at this time and see where she goes.
Yeah.
We are developing like a new bubble that's going to be like way more fun.
Right, you were saying.
It's going to have like a hole in the front of it now, so you can like see out better. You can breathe better when you're inside the bubble. If you can imagine being inside this like enclosed bubble and like, trying to look through 2 pieces of plastic.
It's usually foggy, right?
And
it gets scratchy, and even just people breathing. I guess, do you have to disinfect it every time?
Yeah, so they get wiped down after every event. Lysol wipes on the interior of the bubbles and whatnot. But
usually doing that over time just causes the fade to the bubbles, or like just looking through it too, right? So that's interesting to think that there's now a hole so you can actually see it, huh?
Yeah, man.
Is it for a set height though? Like if you're like really tall, you gotta have to like poke your head down just to look through the bubble?
So there's like a harness inside of it.
Oh.
That makes sure that your head's like, if you have a longer neck, sure, maybe like it might be a little bit higher than the opening. But for the most part, if you are not ET and you're like strapped in there, and you'll be able to look like straight out, be able to get fresh air in, be able to communicate with your teammates.
I probably even do it longer too.
What's that?
Probably just even doing the sport longer too, because I'm sure like with it being like if you're breathing right now, and let's say you're getting like hypothermia, not hypothermia, that's when you freeze. Sorry. Okay, scratch that. We're gonna cut that part out. Hypothermia. He's freezing in a bubble. No, but claustrophobic. Sorry, that was
claustrophobic. Yeah, a lot of people get claustrophobic in there for sure, man. It's not for everybody.
Yeah.
You have to want to hop in there and
True.
and try it out. I mean, the cool thing about it is that you can do like flips in the bubbles. If you don't want to hit someone, you can just flip all day long.
Right.
Just make sure you don't eat too much food before you hop in there.
It's probably really cool when you get a good team. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like when you get like someone who's actually like knows how to play soccer.
Oh, for sure.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah.
And when it's probably a full team too.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
We had the Hamilton Tiger Cats play in the bubbles at one point.
Oh, no way.
And I think we did that for like CHCH back in the day.
Oh, cool.
And it was like 4-on-4, big boys, like just running at each other full speed, man. And it's crazy. Like if you really got a massive game going and with really athletic people,
Right.
it could be an incredible competition. So,
Oh, for sure.
So one day in the Olympics or like a major sport,
That's right. Or hey, if anybody's looking to host an event, and you want to do something for your corporate, get your little employees to run around like little ants and hit at each other. Then Bubble Force is a great solution. Okay, just to get out some frustration, on some other employees, right?
Yeah,
I guess that's really what it comes down to.
Oh,
like
yeah.
you see one employee that you're lined up for, and you're just like, I'm taking you out.
Sure.
Like,
Yeah. Or that manager that, told you to clean that up and you're like, I'm going to get you back now.
yeah. Just like blind time from the back. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's cool. Well, and obviously that's still what you're doing today. And obviously future aspirations is now moving forward with because we're going to do obviously like you're going to do your Bubble Force. Me, I'm going to continue with my sales, and we're going to try to grow this What Do You Do podcast as, hopefully as fast as possible. Hey, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. But yeah, thank you, Cal. I really appreciate you telling your story. And yeah, just obviously a couple questions because I really love the question that you asked last week, which was, if you had your 20-year-old self in front of you, what advice would you give them?
Yeah, I mean, I think like going back to motive, one thing is that just like stay focused, like really focusing on what you do well, really try and hone in on those skills, focus on one project, at a time, give it your best effort. Even if things aren't going well, keep trying.
True.
Don't give up too quickly because I think like with motive back in the day, we were right on the edge of YouTube and
Right.
really kind of getting on there and starting like a channel and trying to, really build it that way. I think we just gave up too soon, which is, a lot on my side of things. So just like stick with it, keep working on it, stay consistent as possible. Try and put as much effort as you can into it, even if like the money's not there yet. Try and pivot, try and change, try and
True.
do things a little bit differently and see if you get a different result. So.
Right. And that'll be the same. And, it's crazy to think that that's what you had to go through and learn back then to obviously, and today, hopefully for this podcast, like it's probably a great lesson learned on what to do things differently this time. Right. Like not to make it, like we don't have the crazy sign here yet. We don't have the movie producers behind the camera. Okay. Like this is just, two cousins trying something out, really just wanting to get into finding out what people do and hopefully inspiring people. Right. Like, I think that's slow and steady is what wins the race, right? Like, I mean, and I think that's probably what's with motive that you got so excited so quick, right? And you want to go to California and meet all these new people, and then maybe it's just a different approach than what we're going to try now, right? Slow and steady and try to make it, a marathon versus a sprint. So.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, you get so fired up, you get so excited, you're on honeymoon stage, let's do this, do that.
And it's easy to beat yourself up too, like if especially dollars aren't coming in and stuff like that, right? It's easy to talk yourself out of it. Like even before this podcast, like how many times we're sitting here being like, is this actually a good idea, right? And even 10 videos, 20, 30, if not a year from now, we might still ask that same question, right? But it takes the consistency to keep doing it, right?
Exactly.
Which is what you got to stick through, and that's what we're gonna learn with this podcast. Like it's gonna be literally one video, one episode at a time, and as a mentor that I've been learning recently, we just got to get 1% better, so
every day, man.
That's right, every day. So anything last things you want to say before?
No, I think I really appreciate you guys coming in and listening to me kind of talk about my life a little bit. It's been a fun road. We tried a little bit of everything, and you just got to find out what sticks. And I appreciate you guys listening, and I really appreciate you guys. If you guys can let us know, who you guys want us to interview, just put in the comments below. Really want to hear who you guys are interested in. Any questions that you may have for those type of people would be super helpful on our side of things. We're going to try and keep things very to the point, very informational, very educational, but also keep it fun and light and all that. So
yeah, and it just goes back to, like, this isn't the type of podcast that you're gonna get. It's like moving forward from next week and on is going to be us sitting down with people in their careers, and it could be anywhere from people that are pilots, doctors, even a zookeeper, to any position out there that people just don't know. I think that the struggle is a lot of people. I knew it was for me at least. Like, you come out of high school thinking that there's only like 5 jobs out there in the world, like some sort of trade, a doctor, a police officer, or a lawyer. Like, that's what it feels like when you come out. Like, obviously you can do that aptitude test, right, where you can do all the answering, and it'll give you an idea of what you should do, or like what you're good at, or what it might be successful. And I remember doing that. And I remember actually one of the first choices was like auto mechanic, and which is what I wanted to do at that time, which was really cool. So, but yeah, definitely moving forward, we're gonna have a lot of great guests coming onto the show. We certainly want to hear your feedback as to what you would like to see. We already have some great ideas of what we're gonna have on the show, just people to talk to, experiences, and it's crazy too, because even if we were to interview 2 of the same people side by side in careers, 2 different stories, and that's the crazy part. Like, listening to what their story is, listening what they had to overcome, and we're definitely excited for the journey. We look forward to you guys watching in and listening in. If you're watching from YouTube, or if you're listening just via the podcast, make sure to hit the follow or the subscribe button, and we certainly want to grow as a family. So thank you guys so much for watching the video and listening to it all the way through, and we will definitely see you in the next podcast. Thanks, guys. Okay.
Fuck, man.
That's awesome.
I fucking.
What?